are listening to Pub Royalty Queen podcast, a place to empower women of color in the music business. Welcome to Pub Royalty Queen podcast. I'm your host, Janisha Jones, and today we're back with a special guest, Daphnee Pierre. Daphnee is head of finance at Mass Appeal Records. Yes, that Mass Appeal that represents and is co-owned by rap legend Nasty Nas, based in NYC and founded in 2014. She represents artists such as Dave East and Manny Fresh, and has released singles from Young Thug, Freddie Gibbs, and A$AP Ferg, and many others. I've had the privilege of getting to know Daphnee Vigilance Career Summit last year. We're both on the financial side of the music industry, and so we have a lot in common and a lot to share about being on the financial side of things and what it takes to be in a lucrative side of the music industry as well. She just exudes big boss energy, so I had to have her on the show. So without further ado, welcome Daphnee to the show. So grateful to have you.
Grateful to be here. Well, thank you so much, Janisha, for such an amazing intro. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm really excited to finally talk to you. I feel like we've gotten to speak, but just in really micro spurts. So
yes,
a nice, beautiful Sunday in New York City. It's actually not too cold. Well, I'm in Long Island, but same for me.
Yeah, I've been hearing that you guys have been getting a lot of snow lately, and
the weather has been really indecisive. Right. So like today, it's pretty comfortable. It's in the 40s, been beautiful and sunny. At least you don't have to wear like a huge coat. But tomorrow it's supposed to be like in the teens. So
man,
I don't do winter. I hate it.
Hey, you need to come to the West Coast.
I'm coming, actually. My husband's been trying to get me, like, we've been thinking about even moving at times, but I'm like, yeah, I'm still in New York.
Well, you got a sister out here when you do come.
I know. I'm going to visit, though. I'm coming out there in June sometime. So
we definitely need to link up. Hit me up and we'll do a brunch or something.
Yes.
But so let's just dive right in.
Sure.
Tell us about your journey through the music industry and what led you to become the head of finance at Mass Appeal.
It's a very loaded question. So actually, this is my first year within the music industry. I've actually been with Mass Appeal now a year and a half. And many people don't realize Mass Appeal is Mass Appeal Records. We are two different entities. We have Mass Appeal Records and Mass Appeal Media. I'm the head of finance of both, which is very challenging in and of itself because it's two very different industries as far as just the intricacies of it. My background is primarily in media, in financial services. So I'm learning quite a lot in the music space. And it's been interesting, to say the least. So I actually joined Mass Appeal during the pandemic. I had actually sat down. I lost my previous job because of the pandemic. I was in media production. My clients were beauty clients and fashion. And the distribution facilities were actually in Wuhan, China. So we couldn't even get merchandise. Exactly. So I knew about the pandemic way before it actually happened here.
What are the chances?
I was like, this can't be my life. So I sat down and I like manifested what my role was. I pen to paper. I envisioned exactly what it was. And I am a music head. I played music growing up. I played the flute. I danced. I used to teach dance. And then I was a promoter. I was also a bouncer, a club bouncer at 1.2.
What?
Yes, I was.
I cannot even picture that.
Oh, yeah, I'm tough, too. Don't get it twisted. I'm shaking up some dudes and throwing about the club. So it just kind of fell in my lap. So I dove right in and I was like, this could be interesting. I think that my personality and all the experience I've garnered in various industries I've worked in would really be helpful in the And so I've actually partnered up with our general manager, Jessica Rivera, who I love, Annie, VP of Marketing. And these women have basically taken me under their wing and really, we have one-on-ones and they really teach me the business, like what to expect, what to look for. I hit the ground running with these women and I get in touch with legal. I ask a lot of questions too. So I bother my CEO, Peter Bittenbender, all the time,
Mhm.
which is questions. And, I do research, and so
Let's
far
talk
so good.
about that. In terms of the mentorship, and like you said, you just entered into the music space, so you're still
Yeah.
learning quite a like what the challenges are there. What are some things that you've learned from your mentors specifically about the music industry compared to other industries that you've worked in?
Ooh, well, as a woman, stand your ground.
Mm-hmm.
That's been
Mm-hmm.
the main theme, and do not let anybody overshadow you, because as we know,
Mm-hmm.
this industry, it's very plastic, right? A lot of people
Mm-hmm.
out there pretending to be who they're not, or making themselves be more important than they are.
Mm.
And women are not respected
Pretentious.
extremely, and women are not. And we have there's this stigma that they think that women in leadership didn't get there on
Mm-hmm.
their own merit.
Right. That's
And
so
and
interesting that you brought that up because another interview that we had with Tammy Littrell, we mentioned the same thing about people just assuming that you slept your way to the top, or
yes,
that you had to denigrate yourself in some kind of way to get where you are. And that's such a sad thing that we
yeah.
have to constantly prove ourselves.
Yes. And then there's also too making sure that you are getting respected, like when dealing with a male, for that
Mm-hmm.
matter. It's the way that they speak to you from
Yeah.
introduction. You have to kind of set that bar, like, nah, we're not
Yeah.
gonna, what you're not
Set the
gonna do is call me
boundaries.
baby girl, or right. And then the relationships, even the way, like, there's a certain protocol and decorum in which you conduct yourself that you do in music that you don't do in other spaces, because a relationship can be ruined immediately,
Yeah.
simply because an artist today woke up saying that anything with the color purple on it is bad. And so
Right.
if you happen to have on a purple shirt, God forbid, in a meeting, it's like, oh, deal's off, because and it's the personalities for me, and I speak my mind. I'll be like, hell's wrong with you? So
Right, right,
I have
right.
to I've had to learn very quickly to bite my tongue. Um,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
been
And I
something
know that's
that,
hard. I mean, especially coming from a place that's as real as New York, where you tell it like it is. I'm kind of struggling with that myself, to be honest. I don't
it's
know if
so
it's
hard.
that Aries energy also that's just kind of like
Oh,
very direct and in your
yes.
face about things,
Well,
but
I'm a
then,
Scorpio, so you
oh, yeah,
can only imagine.
yes,
We have no
you
filter.
guys
We
are the
have
same.
everything is so it's been interesting, because I would have to, like, I'll get an email from, and typically I don't deal with an artist. I deal with some, but mainly I deal with their managers, their attorneys, their CPAs.
Mhm.
And a lot of the times, the way I get an email from somebody, or the way I'm spoken to, and I'm like, I don't know
Mm.
who I'm even talking to like
Mhm.
this. Like, I'm
Mhm.
jumping through the screen. Then I have to take a step
Mhm.
back, and I'm like, wait, wait, wait. First of all, you already know I'm a Black woman. So immediately they think that your default is on,
Yeah.
attitude
You
and
got to check
aggressive.
yourself.
So I actually have a trick in those times when I have to write an email. I don't recommend it to everyone unless you have control. I actually type out what I want to say. I
Yeah.
don't necessarily do it in an email, but I'll put it like on, like, let's say, a Word doc or Google Sheet, and just type out exactly all the feelings to get it out of my system, right?
Yeah.
And then I go back, and then I'll address it a proper way, and then I reread it a good 50 times.
That's a good
And even if I'm
idea.
still not sure, I will reach out to a trusted, advisor in the company and say, I'm about to send this email. Can you read this
Mhm.
response for me and let me know if this is
Oh,
okay?
yeah. You know what?
And
That's so important to have like an ally at work that you can kind of like feed information to and from, especially
yeah,
like if they're another woman of color and they can
yeah,
understand your position as far as like your emotional response. And to your point about like just sitting with how you feel first, oftentimes what I'll do is I'll draft my email, but I won't hit send right after. I'll let it
hmm,
sit there for however long I need to get over whatever it is that I'm feeling emotionally, and then I'll come back to it and see. Most times I need to rewrite that email.
right. Yeah. I mean, I won't even do it in the draft because I'm clumsy, and for whatever reason, I may hit send by accident, and I don't want that.
Yeah, yeah,
So I just
that's true.
off to the side. And then another question I typically will ask myself, which I got this from just praying and meditating, is about your
Yeah.
ego. Like, when you
Oh,
are
yeah.
reacting to something, question why are you reacting this way?
Yes.
Is it ego? right? Which
Mhm.
I can admit
Mhm.
I'm very egotistical. Or is it, are you
Mm.
truly, are your feelings truly warranted, right? Like, why are we
Right.
letting this get to you this way? And a
Exactly.
lot of times it is the ego, because in this
Mhm.
industry, you are around certain people who act a certain way, they rub off on you, right?
Yeah.
Like, even myself, like, I'm not gonna say, I was smelling myself for the first 30 seconds in this role. Like,
Oh yeah.
I'm the head of finance for a major label, and here
Yes.
comes me, like, of course. I'm like, you know
Oh,
what?
that's even something else we could talk about. I just stepped into a new leadership position at
Yes,
Empire.
congratulations.
Thank you. And it was actually kind of jarring at first because I'm so used to being the worker bee.
Hmm.
So like being the one that's kind of like guiding people and directing people is a new thing for me.
Right.
And I'm not exactly like, I wouldn't say I'm a bossy person, but
Hmm.
how I might direct things comes off that way.
Yes.
So while I'm always smiling and I'm always chipper and I'm always in a good mood, if I'm telling somebody what to do, sometimes they don't know how to take that from me.
Mm,
I feel like it doesn't come from an egotistical place as much as you know that you've earned where you are, that you've earned that seat. And
hmm.
so I feel like women of color always have to kind of like exert that because it's not
Yes.
going to be like just respected off the rip.
Right.
Like you have
Right.
to, and you have to be assertive. And there have
Hmm.
been times that like I've apologized for my assertiveness and I'm trying to get over that now. Like, no, you've earned
Mm,
the right to speak up and speak your mind about
yes.
that, you know.
Yes. So long
Um,
as it's done respectfully, right?
yes,
And
yes.
what I try to remind everyone that I work with is that I'm not against you. We're a
Right,
team.
exactly. Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
because I struggle with that. I'm a very get it done kind of person. I've
Mhm.
also learned that I've had bad bosses, and in those bad bosses, I've also inherited their bad behavior. And
Mm,
I started seeing those same things, and I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I remembered how that made me feel when I was spoken to this way. So I checked myself.
yeah.
And what I would start to do is, with my direct reports, I have frequent one-on-ones with them, not
Mhm.
necessarily about work specifically, but about the relationship and
Mhm.
how, in what best way are you able, how can I manage you better?
Right.
And I try to remind you that we are a team. There
Yeah.
are going to be times I may say, yo, just get this done. And it may come across as, oh, she's being a bitch. No, I'm not. I'm probably under a ton of pressure. You probably
Right.
did some things that I fell on the sword for you for, and I need this to be
Mm.
corrected because I don't believe throwing my people
Yes.
under the bus. If there's
Ooh.
a mistake that I didn't catch that now made it past my domain and someone else caught it, like my
Yeah.
CEO or someone else, I'm
Yeah.
not going to say, well, yeah, Sally did this. That makes me a bad
Yeah.
boss. I'm
Yeah.
going
You have
to
to take
say,
ownership of
I
that.
took ownership. But guess what? When I come back to you, we're about to have it, because I'm like, wait, how did this happen? But even in
Yeah.
that, I don't blame you. I blame myself again, because there's something I did not
Mm.
do to prepare you,
Mhm.
or I didn't teach you right, or whatever, in order for, like, something was missed in the
Mhm.
training that allowed for this to happen. Now, if it's happening frequently, I'm not
Mm.
blaming myself anymore. I'm like, wait, well, this is on you, but we need to
Right.
figure out the why, right? So I started to do
Exactly.
more of that, and I just have check-ins, and then I even say, hey, listen, if I say something to you that you feel is off-putting or whatever, please speak up. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I sometimes
Yeah.
I'm not even cognizant what's going on, like that I
Exactly.
did that, right? So
Yes.
there's a lot of just being self-aware and just
Mhm.
really doing checking in, and I do that. I also do that with my, not necessarily, they're more my advisors, the women I work with, who I love. Like, we have an amazing relationship, and
Mm.
I call them and I say, hey, listen, I need to just vent this out for a second, and they'll
Mm.
let me vomit up whatever I need to do, and then they go, okay, and then I
Well,
go,
that's a
okay, now
privilege to have other women that you can
extremely.
actually vent to. I'm just, I don't feel like I have that so much where I am, mostly because I'm very aware of, are people really like wanting to hear me because of they feel like they have to get close to me? You know,
Yeah, you got to be real careful. So
yeah.
again, in selecting your advisors, you have to be really, really careful. I was lucky enough to find these 3 women in my company. I mean, I was, except for Annie, I was there with Jessica came later and Jenya came later, but we just happened to develop the relationship that we have that allowed that to happen. I wouldn't recommend, like, you have to be, because people are in it and you think they have your back and they're running off and, telling you business or using it against you, right?
Exactly. Everyone has an agenda, I feel, especially out here in LA, where it's like very much a laughing or smiling your face and then talk behind your back situation. So you're right. And then I feel like, though, because I have, I grew up on the East Coast. I grew up in Paterson, New Jersey. I can smell the real from the fake very easily.
Yep.
So I have that, discernment. But yeah, it's a challenge still.
It is.
It's a challenge.
And it doesn't necessarily, like, your advisor. So the reason, there's a book that I read, Strategize to Win by Carla Harris. What is she? I don't know. She's a big wig at Morgan Stanley. And when I worked at Morgan Stanley many moons ago, I used to go to her speaking engagements, and she had this book, and she's always talked about, in your career, you need to have a mentor, an advisor, and a supervisor. And your mentor, right, is obviously going to have your best interest in it. They help guide your career, right? You come to them for the advice on how to navigate through certain, what your path is, what you're trying to do in your career. Your advisor is one who is going to also have your best interest at heart, but they're not necessarily your friend.
Right.
So you still have to kind of discern what you're sharing with them and what's their purpose in your life and what you're sharing. I've been lucky enough where the advisors that I have are also friends. We did develop a friendship, but when we have those conversations, they're raw with me, right? They tell me, listen, they hold the mirror up to my face and go, listen, you're not, or you're justified, right? Like, your supervisor is one who holds you accountable.
Yes. So they're not your friend.
They're not your friend. They're not your friend. And you don't want them to be.
Right.
A friend, will have, like, my best friend. Yes, we have a great relationship, and typically whenever I come to her with an issue or her to me, we can be honest and say, "Nah, you're wrong for that." But a lot of us, her and I think the same way. So you were right in what you said. Like, no.
They traditionally support you. That's why they're your friends.
She knows what the bodies are buried, so she's gonna be like, "Yeah, what you need." Like, of course you were right in cursing that person out, But so you have to really, as an adult, you really have to start to decipher who those people are in your life, and that can change. A mentor is only to be a mentor for a certain time. Right? Like, I had who I considered a mentor was my old boss at Morgan Stanley, who I loved to death. And he guided me for a time. And then I did reach a point where I was like, yeah, I think this is your role as my mentor is done. Right? I don't think you can help me past this point. And that was okay too. Right? And I've then moved on. I don't really have an actual mentor now. My mentors are virtual. Right? There are people like Valerie Jarrett, Bozeman St. John, Beyonce, of course.
Beyonce is your mentor?
In my head, yes. Yes. Everybody that I just mentioned, they're my mentors in my head.
Got you.
And I say that I read up on their work, how they do things. Like, for example, Bozeman St. John, who's been in media and advertising for ages, she's on her own agency. I read through and watched interviews on her success, how she made it to where she is, what challenges she faced. And I identify with some of those things. And I go, oh, what did she do differently? What would I do in those situations? And I kind of pretend I'm having a conversation with her. And I'll watch some of these interviews and I go, okay, that is good to know. And I will tuck that somewhere in my back pocket. And if I'm in a situation that's similar to that, I go, well, Bose did this way. I wonder if that would work for me. And I've tried it and it works. One of the things I did, especially during the pandemic, like prior to the pandemic, there were so many things I wanted to do, right? Whether it be just getting involved in certain organizations, joining a board, even just joining certain organizations, like networking events and speaking engagements. I was always too, as bubbly and as outgoing as I am, I would second guess myself and be like, yeah, I don't know if I can do that. And I'd find a reason not to, right? I'd find an excuse.
Self-sabotage.
I'm guilty of that.
No.
But during the pandemic, when nature and everything else says sit down, right? I sat down And I really started to think about, okay, I'm not going to let this get to me. We're going to take this time. We're all having to sit down and just, so
Yeah.
while doing that, I have no other distractions. There's no work. Yep, my kid is here, but he was 2 at the time. Husband's home, house. Like we had nothing else to do but just be, right?
Yeah.
So I just sat down and I went, okay, what's next for you?
Mm-hmm.
What do you see yourself doing whenever we're allowed to go back outside again?
Mm-hmm.
What can you do differently? And I told myself, I'm not going to come out the way I came in. With all
Right.
the fear, with all the second guessing and all of that, you have like a profile and you put down your interests, what you're looking to do, whether it's your job searching or you're interested in a particular industry, and they pair you for a coffee chat, right? Virtually. So like with you, like you and I have this, yeah. So we have this connection through music. Cool. And it would have paired us up that way. And we talk and you would just share what you're doing and I'm sharing what I'm doing. Before you know it, we can actually, we're like, oh, you know what, we're working on the same project. Why don't we pair up?
Collaborate.
Or you advise on, oh, I know such and such who may be able to help you. And that's just how I started doing it. So I
it
started
gets
talking
you
to
out of your
people.
comfort zone in a way. Like
it did, because it was almost like I no longer was interviewing anymore. It was just conversation. And even that practice helped me interview differently for jobs. So when I did interview, it wasn't an interview. It was a conversation. Then I started my own resume writing business during that time, right? Because it's like, okay, well, I'm not working. Okay, got a severance, fine. But how long is that going to last?
Yeah.
So I need to
well,
come
that's
up.
just such a valid point about like what COVID, I mean, for a lot of people, first of all, let's just acknowledge the fact that we're probably in a much more privileged place than a lot of people to come out of COVID the way that we have. But, and the luxury to even be able to say, you know what, I'm going to pick up a new habit, or I'm going to try a new skill or something like that. But I think to your point, a lot of people did go into COVID not knowing what was on the other side of that. And so it kind of, the urgency to transform in a way or become more reflective and self-aware made us participate in these other ways of communicating with one another, made us try different things that we wouldn't normally try out. And so that's such a valid gem that you provided, allowing people to like just learn different ways to connect and to pursue ways in which you can create a new avenue for yourself or develop your attributes, you know?
Yeah, I was able to learn that. I would speak to people differently. I got super comfortable on Zooms, right? And it just forced me to come out of my comfort zone, where now I came out, I'm at Mass Appeal. Even my approach, because I joined during the pandemic. So I didn't even meet my colleagues in person until months later. So I started setting up, I actually learned this from another colleague of mine named Chris when I was at We Are Social for a little bit. When he joined the company, he set up like lunch or coffee dates with everybody in the company called Get to Know Chris, where just that was his way of getting to know people and then him. So that at some point he's going to collaborate with them, because they didn't have like the greatest onboarding to help introduce new employees. So he took it upon himself to do that. And I was like, that's a good idea. I did the same thing.
Matter of fact, I need to write that down.
I recommend it because at this point, look, we're not going back to, I don't believe we're going to go back to being full-time in an office.
No, especially now. I mean, people who have the resource of being able to connect virtually see that, first of all, they're saving money on gas and they're having a little bit more of a work-life balance having this work from home situation, if they can afford it, you know what I mean? If you can afford to have a computer at home and internet and all of that, then yeah, it makes sense to kind of keep things the way they are. Although I will admit the synergy of being in office is lost when you're just, you know, doing everything virtually. So I work in the tech side of the music business. Not much of my job needs to be in person, but I found that when I sit down with my developer or I sit down with this chief product officer or Ghazi, we can talk about so much more in person. We feel like there's more of a connection. We understand what we need to get done when we're in person. So I've been making more frequent trips to our headquarters for that reason. But yeah, I definitely value the work from home situation. I'm like,
it's the best thing for me.
Perfect.
But it's interesting that you say that has changed for you, because for me, I find that after doing I call, my tour, right, with everyone in the
Mm-hmm.
company and getting to know everybody and letting them know that I'm here, I'm open. Also you're seeing into my space, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
my son may pop in here and hey, so they see your kid,
Yeah.
they see who you are. So there's a personal element to it that is now
Yes.
applied. So
Yes.
when we are in person, I actually find that I get a lot more out of people because they know
Yeah.
me and I
Yeah.
them. And when
Yes.
we are with each other, there isn't a lot of clashing and
Right.
fighting. There's more, okay, there could be disagreement, sure, about a specific idea or a topic, but we work differently together for me, because of that
Yeah.
same, because they know who I am,
Because you're a human
right?
being. Oh, she
Yes.
actually lives in a place and she actually has responsibilities. And,
Hmm.
it starts to put like a human element to
Yep.
the people that you interact with.
There's more grace applied in, a delayed
Mm-hmm.
response in an email. Like, my boss will be like, let's say it's 5, 6 o'clock. He knows that's pickup time from school and, extracurricular activities or whatever.
Right.
But if he needs something, he'll say first, hey, are you with your son right now? Or do you have a minute? Like, there's no
Yeah.
just expecting me to jump on and have a conversation, because
Mm-hmm.
he
Mm-hmm.
understands I have a family. That is something that we also still have to struggle with as women, but I
Mm-hmm.
feel like we have more of a leg to stand on now in this industry
Mm-hmm.
because we can set certain boundaries with folks and there's a certain expectation that we don't have to necessarily fight anymore. Like, I think
Mm.
prior to pandemic, right, we almost had to hide that we're moms or that we're
Mm.
wives or a partner or we're taking care of a parent or some
Right.
other obligation outside of work. And it was
Right.
almost a curse, like, oh, she got a
Yeah.
kid. We're not going to talk,
Yeah.
we can't give her
Being
this
a
responsibility because,
caretaker takes away from the professional aspect of that woman for whatever
yes.
reason, even though that's such a superhuman ability to be able
Are you
to
kidding me?
manage all of those things. We
Let me
don't.
give you a case
I
in
don't have
point.
a family, so I can't really. But I see it, and I'm like, man, how do you freaking do that? How do you
You
guys
just
do
do.
that?
You just do. Like the other day, Thursday, I was, up early, got my kid ready for school. My husband dropped them off. I then had to take care of, I think I had some errands I had to run while working, help my dad out with something, help my husband out with something, still manage my
Mm-hmm.
day-to-day job, right? Do all the things that I had to do, plus whatever emergencies and fires is happening within that space.
Mm-hmm.
Then stop what I'm doing at like 4:30. Run, pick up my son from school, take him to karate. While at karate, boss is hitting me up about something urgent. I literally go into an office, handle it. Hey, babe, good job. Yep, I saw that kick. Da, 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 da. Come back home and then do it all over again. I sat there and
Oh
I was
my
like,
gosh.
oh yeah. And nobody knows. Nobody knows that this is happening. Like, we
I
are
wonder if there is
superhuman.
a way that the industry can be like, what would you want the industry to provide to make your work life situation a little bit easier? Because it's hard being an executive, but then it's hard to be like a high, in a high position where you're being required to answer urgent matters and
Mhm.
you still have your family and home responsibilities. Like, what could the industry do as a whole to make it a little bit easier?
It's a really good question. I'm not really sure what anyone could particularly do, any industry, to be honest with you, outside of maybe providing, maybe give us all nannies,
There you go. Oh,
right?
incentivize like a nanny or housekeeper, like, you
House
know?
cleaning. I'll settle for just somebody to come and clean my house once a week.
Yes.
So that's
Yes,
one
a good
less thing that I
idea.
have to do so that I can handle work,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And, even just babysitting for a few hours.
Yeah, yeah.
Like my son's karate dojo, they actually offer this thing called Parents Night Out, where
Mm,
for 3 hours, no parents are allowed. You drop your kid off and you can go and have a date night or whatever while the kids
nice.
play and it's in a safe space. So last month they did it was laser tag and a
Mm.
bouncy house and for kids of all
Aw,
ages
that's
for
cool.
3 hours and they're safe, they're good. And I had 3 hours to just like
Do
not
you?
think about it. And I think more stuff like that should be done from an industry standpoint. Like you should give
That's true.
not just parents though, because I think that it singles us out. Like Because I remember being single and not having a kid and still having responsibilities or just needing a break. Because that's another thing. People think because you don't, or they assume you don't have, may not talk about it or whatever, that if you don't have a parent to take care of or a child or whatever, that you're available.
Right.
No.
That's true too.
You may be single, you may have a dog or a cat or a pet iguana.
Or a life.
Or just a life where you just need to take a step away.
That's so true. Oh my gosh. You just like gave me a flashback of like, all right, so I'm still very new, so I need to like humble myself a little bit, but there's been times when I'm like literally stepping out of my apartment to do something that I want to do.
Right.
And I'll get a call, about, hey, can you check on this? And it's like, I'm literally about to like cut my phone off now.
What happened to me like the other day? I was in the shower. I finally got a chance to take a shower. It was 2:00 in the afternoon. And literally while I'm in the shower, I take my phone with me everywhere or my laptop. And in that moment, I realized I didn't have my phone. I jumped out, almost killed myself because I was wet and I just ran out naked and ran out just to get the phone because I had a hunch and I saw that, oh my God, there was an emergency that I needed to take care of. So now I'm literally on a call in a towel, handling. Goodness. And it's just like what we do need is for people to stop operating like the world's on fire.
Right. Everything is like, someone's going to die if you don't do this thing over here.
Especially like when it comes to contract signing and things like that and executing, like the other party could sit with that contract for damn near months, right?
Right.
And then finally, when they've executed on their side, now on your side, it's a mad dash to like get signing or, make sure that, you have the appropriate accounts available to make sure the funds are coming. And it's just like, it's 4:00 in the morning, India. If I don't get to it right this second, it's okay.
Right.
The money's going to get there.
You'll live. Nothing's going to change in that short period of time. Yeah.
And it's that for me. Or when an artist is like, hey, I got my profit statement and, it's $300. Like, I need my money. Whoa, it's PayPal and Zelle. Chillax. It'll get there. I need a minute.
Right.
So I think that's really what we need. I think it's just the boundary setting that's required.
Yeah.
It's all nannies.
I hear you. All right. So we talked already about challenges of being a woman of color, but are there any specific challenges that you face as a woman of color that you could provide some advice on how to counter those adversities?
Yes. It's the stereotypes for me. And almost that surprise when you don't act the way that someone tells you
that
they think you're going to be. When a specific person who's not a person of color speaks to me in that, hey girl,
the vernacular.
If you want to, it drives me up the wall. My husband actually had a situation like that where he's also in advertising, and he said that he had a colleague once speak to him like, talk like he spoke street. It was like, he was like, why are you talking? He's like, that's the only way you'd understand me. It's, what do you mean? Like, I'm not. So for me, it's those things. Like, I remember I had one someone say to me, that's what it was. I came into work. I had my a scully on because it was cold outside, but I actually have like a wrap cap because I keep my edges laid, so I like had that on underneath it.
Yes,
exactly.
As you do when you're a Black woman and you have
you need to
keep
it.
Exactly.
So I took off my scully and took off the wrap cap for my edges, and the woman was like, "Oh, is that a do-rag?" And she said it in such a way, like she had this twang about her. And I was like, I'm sorry, is that a what? And she was like, is that a do-rag? Oh, I wear a do-rag. And I was like, ma'am.
You do?
Why do you feel the need to share this information with me? So it's those kind of things that I'm like,
we are not. It rubs you the wrong way.
It does, because it doesn't affect my job. Like, it doesn't affect this. Like, or just even and then the other challenge that I have is always having to quell emotion because it's going to be taken the wrong way. I'm a very passionate person. I'm Haitian, so that's just by default. If you hear a Haitian speaking, you think we're fighting. It's not our fault. That's just us. So and when I care about a specific topic, I can be a bit more boisterous.
Right.
but I have to take it a step back because it's taken as emotion. And
Right.
it's like,
Right.
yeah, I am emotional about it. What's wrong with that?
Right.
Why is it that if you do it, Mr. Cisgender white male, it's fine. But when I do it, it's, oh, she's unstable. She has, she's aggressive. I don't know if she's the right person for them. So it's those things for me that I'm constantly having to, like, even in a situation where I know is wrong, I have to like breathe, just
Yeah.
nod and go, yeah, great. Or really fight to find the words to articulate in such a way where you're not offended and
Yeah.
you're not uncomfortable. And
That's such
yeah,
a word. Honestly, I resonate with all of what you just said. Some of the instances that comes to my mind are, so I have a very unique name. There's
yes.
no denying that I'm a Black woman because my name is just Black. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it's Black American to the point where it's like made up, and it's
Yes.
a combination of my parents' names.
Oh,
So
cool.
that's like, that to me is a very quintessential Black thing to happen. So
Yeah.
anytime I'm introducing myself, and if it's a white person, I remember one of the CEOs of a music company, I was meeting him, and, oh, that's a very interesting name. And just like the fact that he felt it was, and he asked me like, oh, where does that come from? Like, oh, like as if I was some kind of exhibit or
Alien.
something, or you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like, I'm like,
Mm-hmm. No, I have a similar thing with my name, Daphnee
yeah,
Pierre, and it's spelled two E's, an accent
yeah,
over the E, and then there's Pierre, right? So people
uh,
tried to take my Blackness away.
mm-mm-mm.
Oh, you're French.
Oh
No,
my gosh.
they were my oppressors. I am
Right.
Haitian.
Right.
Also, you're not black. What?
Oh my gosh.
Oh God, yes.
Ignorance.
I have to, and I get this, and I'm sorry, but not just with white people. I get this with my own people,
Yeah.
like with
Sadly.
other black people. It's the same thing. Also, you're not black. What is a black person?
Oh my gosh. This is
Like,
something
so
that I feel we have, so many women go through this. If you're an educated person in general, you're going to be met with that trope of, oh, you're trying to act white, or you somehow lost your Black card because you know how to speak properly. Like, I don't understand that. That's such a sad
yes,
thing that we have to deal with that. Like, shouldn't we be proud of the fact that we're educated? You get what I'm
yes,
saying? Like, shouldn't we
yes.
be like lifting each other up to say,
Up.
oh, yeah,
It's
he
that
went
crab
and,
in a barrel mentality
yeah,
still, and it's like like I speak two languages, and yes, I'm Haitian, and all the
yes.
things, and it's like, oh, you're not. And I've gotten this from other people of color. Like, I never
Yeah.
forget, I was godson's birthday party, and my friend's neighbor was Indian, who she had connected with because they have young kids together. And in talking about, I don't know, we were talking about parenting or something like that. And
Mhm.
she's like, I've never asked you guys, what are you? And she's like, but because you're not from here, you're not American. And we're like, well, I was like, well, I'm born here. So yeah, I am.
As American as you
Um,
can get.
right. Well, yeah. I was like, I'm raised Haitian through and through, I had
Yeah,
to
yeah.
basically,
Culturally.
right. But she's like, oh, I can tell because you're different from the rest. When she fixed her mouth to say that, I was like, she's like, because you're
Mm.
educated. And my son's school too, his director did the same thing. Like he missed school for a few days from sickness and brought him back. And when I brought him back, she was like feeling him up, checking for like scars, bruises. It's their job.
What?
When children miss school for a while, you want to make sure it wasn't because they were abused or
Oh.
whatever.
Oh.
I was like, okay. I didn't freak out. I was just like, she was like,
Right.
you understand why I'm doing this, right? I was like, yeah, do your job. And she's like, oh, she's like, yes, I know you get it. You're educated. And I was like, what does that even
Wow.
mean? And the things and that's some of I face these challenges every day, like at
Um,
work, out in these streets. It's like there's
that'll
this,
make you snuff somebody. They say something like that to you. Like, what?
you can't
Is
though,
that
because
what?
if you do, you're
The
fulfilling the
narrative.
stereotype that exactly. So you have to just kind of be
Yeah.
like, no, we're not
Oh
all the same,
man. And it's
you
crazy
know?
because people think that things like that don't exist anymore, right? Like, somehow post Obama, we're in this, this
Yeah, well,
raceless
don't
society, and people don't have these, biases.
no. And this
It's
is one
so,
reason why I push. I'm in a national. I'm a compliance officer of a national book club, right? It's a of all women of color, Black women specifically.
mm,
We only read books of the Black diaspora.
mm, mm,
And whenever I hear these comments like, "Oh, you don't find women like you. There aren't too many of you." I go, "Oh no." I was like, "I'm a part of a whole organization, 500 of us, plus
mm.
and growing, that are like this." And these women, they're women who's worked at NASA, down to a woman who's been, a manager at Walmart for the last 25 years.
Yes,
And she's very educated, a well-read woman.
yes,
Like, this is why I push this, because I
yes.
want that narrative to change. It
And that's
shouldn't be
part of the
that
reason
way.
why I have this podcast, is because I feel like the music industry has a way of creating a narrative for Black women in general, and it's that misogynoir, that kind of putting down Black women or over sexualizing us. All we have to offer are our bodies, that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
yet, there's so many of us that we're college educated, we're lawyers, we're professionals, we're CEOs, like, and we're being able to express ourselves in ways that aren't overtly emotional in the boardroom. We're
Right.
able to get things done.
Yep.
We're the culture, essentially. We're the culture.
We
We're the
are the
ones that's
culture.
moving the needle forward. And so people, I think, need to recognize that we're the leaders now. Like, we got the special sauce. That's what I call it. We
Yes.
got the sauce,
Yes. We do.
and
We do.
we can mold ourselves into whatever environment that we need. If we go to the boardroom, we can clean it up, but we can go to the barbecue too, and do the
Listen.
electric slide, and
Yes. Yes.
some
If
good old
and
food.
and that's one of the things, I love about us, is that we are so versatile, and
Yes,
we can pretty much mold into whatever you need us to be.
yes.
And that's amazing in and of itself. But I just
Hmm.
wish that was celebrated more.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
even in our own right, as women in those spaces, we don't celebrate ourselves enough. We
Exactly.
downplay that.
Oh my God, what a word that
I
is.
catch myself doing that all the time. Like, friends of mine will be like, "Oh my God, Daphnee, you're doing so much. You're amazing." I'm like, no. Like, you
Yeah.
find
Oh,
yourself dismissing,
oh, that is such a freaking word. Everything that you're saying just resonates so deeply with me. I have a really close friend who I've worked with for many, many years, and I have
Mhm.
the privilege of working with her now. She's biracial, but she identifies more with her whiteness.
Really?
And I've had conversations with her where I felt like, she's like, "Do you realize how special you are? Do you realize that what you do, not everyone does?" And I'm just like, yeah, but I feel like anyone that had the privilege that I had, or had the tools and resources that I had, could do what I had.
Yeah.
What I do, I mean, could have what I have, do what I do. So I don't think of me as being a special person. And she's like, no, 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 no. She made me change my position on how I felt about myself. And to your point, I feel like women of color, not just professionally, but absolutely professionally as well, we are taught to dim our light. We're taught
Yes.
to minimize ourselves and our accomplishments. And
You know why?
for
Slavery.
yes,
That's the
when it
answer.
all boils down to it,
It's
that's
slavery.
what it is.
Because if you
Yeah.
think about it, I actually came across this article once about that, and how a white mom talks to and about her child
Mm-hmm.
versus a Black mom.
Mm.
Little Timmy from White Mom could literally do things like fold his tongue, which is something that's genetic, and she's going to celebrate it. Look, my Timmy can fold his tongue, and he knows how to tie his shoes, and if you say something about little Timmy being good, she's going to add sauce to it and make it sound like he's a genius. Black
Mm-hmm.
mom with Tyrone will, if you go, "Oh, Tyrone is so smart. She'll be like, "No, he's not. He don't behave. He's bad. He's this." Why is that? Because during slavery time, a slave mom would, an enslaved mom, excuse me, would, if a child presented any type of skill or anything like that, they would take the child away, right? They'd sell
Oh,
that
that's
child.
right.
Or they'd move from outside to inside, what have you.
You're right.
And
You're
it was a form
right.
of protection. And that cycle
Yeah,
has
you're
not been
right.
broken.
It's
It's
true.
rare you
We're
hear Black
taught to,
moms. Yeah, we're
you
taught,
don't want to
and
put no shine on or draw attention to yourself.
especially with a girl, because little girl, you start to exude your beauty, your looks, your intelligence. What happens? They're raping you.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're taking advantage of you.
Man.
So that's your mom is trying to protect you from making sure that that doesn't happen to you. So they made you feel like, okay, oh, I'm pretty. No, no, take off that makeup. No, no, bind your boobs. No, whatever you have to
Oh
do
man.
to not shine, because it's a form of protection. And over time, that's how we
Right.
were raised, right?
Yeah.
I could tell you full I love my mom, but my mom was psycho.
Oh no.
She's tough. She was tough.
Mm,
She treated me. I mean, I used to be like, damn, like, do you like, am I adopted? Like, why are you talking to
mm,
me? Like, she finally said, I'm gonna say, she said it in front of my dad. My dad choked up. I didn't know
mm,
what to do. I was so shocked. I was just like,
mm.
because nothing I
Yeah.
did was impressive. Nothing I did, anything I did was like, no, on to the next thing. But that's not
Mm.
good enough. You know, I remember
It
graduating
creates a
college.
toxic generational curse type situation where, and that's because that's what she grew up with too. You know.
Actually, yeah, to a degree, yeah, because that's our culture. Like nothing is exciting. It's like, no, you're supposed to do this. You
Yeah.
know, like I make fun of Nigerians all the time. When I meet a Nigerian person, I'm like, how many letters do you have behind your name? They go, oh yeah, I have
Oh
2 masters, a PhD, and I'm studying to be something else. Because that is
yeah.
what is instilled in us. They're not impressed by what you do. And that's basically what we are trained now. So we don't celebrate ourselves.
Right.
And that's one thing I am working to change. You know, I
Hmm.
couldn't even accept the compliment for a very long time.
You know
You
what was
know,
a change for me? I just came back from family trip to Egypt and Dubai. And,
I was very jealous.
oh no, trust me, I have been like, I feel like I manifested this because for so many years, I literally like planned it out to the day for a
Nice,
lot of years what I've been wanting
nice.
to do. So it finally happened. But you cannot come back to your situation uninspired. To see what African kings and queens were able to accomplish and create that still exists for you to see today. And the
Mhm.
fact that they were so proud of their melanin. Like there were things that they did so thoughtful about making sure people knew they were Black and that they had this power that's just even going there 3,000 years later. I'm like, nobody was working with them. Nobody was messing
Mm-mm.
with the Egyptians.
No,
They were so beyond their time.
yes,
And so to come back with that knowledge of, okay, our ancestors did this, like we are
right.
royalty. We really have. There's no reason for me to continue to minimize myself or not step into
Right.
my light. You know, that's and it's kind of made for us, to be honest. I do feel like we're just special in
We
like
are. We are. And I think that our generation, we are the bearers of generational. We have to break those curses. We've been
yes,
charged with that. We're informed about it. We're the one who's actively doing the work and the research and realizing our parents were wrong.
yeah,
Their parents were wrong, and parents before them were wrong. And it's up to us now to change that.
yeah.
And starting with ourselves, like I said, I know for a long time I couldn't getting a compliment made me cringe because I didn't believe it.
Mm,
Right?
mm,
Even still now, I'm like, oh, like, okay.
mm. Because
And I
you
have
feel
to
like you don't
process.
deserve it, or are you still? Oh man,
Yeah. Even with this invite onto this podcast, I was like, when you met and you were like, oh my God, like I met you and I met Lorraine. And I'm like, you guys are like, oh my God, you're an amazing woman. I'm like, no, I think you guys are amazing. I want to
oh
know who you are. Like it was, and I had to sit back and go, wait a minute. But of course, why
yeah,
not?
exactly,
Like
exactly,
attracts like. So if I feel like that about them, that means I'm the same way. But in
exactly.
that moment, it is
Yes,
so difficult because we're so used to being torn down,
yeah,
you know? And it's just
yeah. You
it's
sit with
something
it
that
for years until you actually like. Part of it too is going to therapy for me, like being able
ooh,
to say, "Hey, I don't know." That's a whole nother segment we gotta
ooh,
go
ooh.
into. First of all, like let's wrap this one up because I feel like we can really go on and on about like how it is that we came to this point of not acknowledging our power and not being able to see ourselves for who we truly are. And I
Yeah,
do feel like the music industry perpetuates that, not necessarily because of our own doing, because we are part of the projects a lot of the time. So, but I think it's what the larger population wants to see of us, the caricature of
but
us.
we participate in that,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
I remember remember I was big on watching videos growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to be those women. And I remember like in the early 90s, a music video, whether it was a rap video or otherwise, the woman she didn't have on scantily clad clothing, right? Unless you saw Baby Got Back or Uncle Luke video, those were the only, right?
Not
But
the
the woman
taking
had
ones.
but they actually just had on some biker shorts and a big t-shirt and a fitted cap and some sneakers, but they were cute, right? Or baggy jeans and a hockey jersey, but they were
the roundaway girl.
Yes, door knocking earrings. And we didn't do the name calling, right? Even a rap song about a girl talked about how cool, how dope she was. Talked about her personality, and she was cute. Oh, did she know how to play ball? And she could kick a dude's ass and still be able to just keep her femininity. Right. And then of course the R&B videos, the love songs were the woman had on a nice dress and hair and makeup, and it was always respectful.
Yeah.
Over time, all right, it got a little crazy. Then it was like we bitches and hoes. And we were singing it.
Yeah.
Right? We go back to Chris Rock's talk about some his song, and he's like, fucking with a dick. And he's like singing it, and then the girl is going on singing it, and she's like, he ain't talking about me. And she continues to sing the song. And I'm like, that was us. You know how many songs I participated in? And I'm like, we are participating in this. So of course they're gonna keep doing it. Right?
Yeah.
And now
so what's the answer? Like what can we do?
We're too far gone. We're too far gone. The answer is for all women to rise up and say no more and shut it the hell down.
So the other side of it, I feel like, okay, so I've had this conversation with some tastemakers, people that are the ones putting the songs on the playlist and all of this. And I'm like, there's an element of empowerment there too, because what's happening is a lot of women are reclaiming their sexuality. They're reclaiming a lot of it. Like narrative from he's calling me a bitch and a hoe and I have no value to I can dress however the fuck I want to dress, but I'm also the boss. Like I'm paying all y'all's bills. I'm also the hottest lyricist in the game. Like you know what I'm saying? So
there is a shift. There's a shift, but I don't know, and that's something that I grapple with. I don't know if that message is truly being received.
Fair.
Because behind the scenes, it's still a lot of times it's a man running it.
Yeah.
Let's take, for instance, Meg Thee Stallion, Cardi B. Love them.
Yeah.
I love that they've reclaimed their sexuality. I love that they claim even down to their sex. Like, here's how I do it, and here's what I want to do to me, and I'm gonna send them off. Beautiful. But is it really sending the right message to our young women? I have stepdaughters, 22 and 13. I don't know how comfortable I am. Yes, I want you to own your sexuality. By all means, wear what you want to wear, do what you want to do, but understand that particular, what you're doing is still going to bring a certain attention that you necessarily may not want.
You have to take the good and the bad.
You have to take the good and the bad. So I don't know. Like, yes, you can. Like, I'm a boss, right? I'm not in these streets talking about some look at my BBL and no. Like, that ain't me. I don't need it. If you know what I mean. I go out there and see like, oh, yeah, she's good, but I don't necessarily do that. I don't hide my sexuality, but I know that there has to be, some kind of boundary because I'm at work and I don't want you to be at certain parts of my body, right? Because we're still carnal, very animalistic people at the end of the day, right? So you have to do the things. If you want people to treat you a certain way, you have to play the part. If I want to be treated like a boss, I gotta appear as a boss. And a boss in my mind is not necessarily suit and tie, but a certain energy, right? And how am I going to exude that certain energy if my tatas are out and I got lashes, damn near hitting my forehead, right? Because I'm distracting you from the big picture. So I think you can be a boss, be sexual, but still be conservative. There's a time and a place.
Yeah.
I go to the club. Oh, by all means, you're going to see all the things, right?
Yeah.
But with that comes, a dude may try to grab me. I'm gonna have to punch him in the throat, but that's a different story. I know what I'm expecting. At work, though, I don't want somebody to come at me that way because I want you to take what I'm saying seriously.
Right.
So there needs to be some type of
I
balance,
hear you.
you
I
know?
feel you. That's a good way to
So
say, and I've heard that's been echoed a couple of times to me, that you have to be the one to set the tone,
yes,
essentially, and know your audience. And part of me is like, I want to push the boundary a little bit, just because I want to be the one that's coming in shaking the table a little bit. You get
right.
what I'm saying?
And
Like,
you can
hey,
do that. And that's fine. But you know that with that comes certain expectations. There comes a certain,
yeah,
you have to be prepared for what's going to come back at you.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, like everybody talks about like sharing their mind or how they have the right to do certain things, and you do. But know that the person that you're dealing with has the right to counter.
That's true.
And that's
You
what we
can't
don't necessarily
control what
think
other
about.
people, how they perceive you, and at the end of the day, I mean, that energy is going to be directed at you because you're the one that's doing those things. So that's a fair judgment, I feel, for sure, and I receive that. All right, so what kind of advice would you give women aspiring to be in the music industry?
Do your homework. Really think about what are your goals? What's your intention? Right? Because the one thing that people don't have is time. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Time is of the essence. And as we all learned during the pandemic, watching people, lose their lives for senseless things, you have to make sure that if you want somebody to give you their time, make it worth it. Right? I don't meet anybody unless I know for sure what is it that I want to tell you. Like I actually prepare notes. What do I want to share with you? What if you're giving me your time, I want to make sure you felt like that was worth it.
Yes.
So you have to think about that. A lot of people just go into, I want to be in the industry. Why? What is it that you want to do? You want to be a singer or rapper? Why? What's setting you apart from other people? Right? What message are you trying to deliver that other people necessarily aren't? Right?
Yes.
Like you started your own podcast.
Mm-hmm.
There are podcasts. I mean, this industry right now is oversaturated, right?
Yes.
But no one is you, right? You have your own messages you want to deliver, even though there may be somebody else who's delivering the same thing, but you have your way of doing it. And that's okay. And that's what people need to understand. And then go for it.
Yes. Go
for it. If you really want to do it, do it.
Yes.
Right? But don't just do it like, okay, I'm just going to go and no, really do it. Put your music out there.
Mm-hmm.
Artists today, just people in the industry, we have so much that we didn't have back then, right? Like somebody back then, if they needed to be heard, right? Even down to looking for a job, you had to physically take your resume and go to that office and hope somebody takes it from you. Now you just post it on the internet, right? You have a song you want to play, you have a platform, many, from SoundCloud to your own IG to TikTok. God, so really take advantage of that. Don't just sit here and go, I want to be an artist. I want to. Go find out who the people are. Research them. I'm not saying go and be, harass them. But, I get people hitting me up on LinkedIn all the time. And I'm always like, why are you hitting me up? I'm the head of finance. How am I going to help you? How?
To me, that is like one of the most interesting things. It's like, it's such a telling situation when people hit you up and you're like, yes, you have access and yes, you have connections. But at the end of the day, if you learn the industry or learn about it, you know who to tap into. You know who to tap into. So if you're coming to me, it's like, are you really
You're not serious. You're not serious. You're not serious.
Exactly.
Because I'm sorry. Like yes, I may know. I don't necessarily know Nas. I've seen him, a few times, sat in a room with him. Have I actually sat here and negotiated a deal for him? No. That's not my role here.
How many people approach you trying to get like Nas featured on a song that they're doing?
Every day. There are people who wait outside the office. And I'm like, if you really knew, he's not even in New York. Like, no. Or people drop me their SoundClouds on even friends from college were random, who I haven't spoken to in a long time, would randomly just drop me a link. And I'm like, what are you sending me? What's your intention?
Oh, I feel like we're cut from the same cloth, you and I, the way that our lives are set up.
Even if you're doing that, you're shooting your shot, there's a way to do it. Address the fact of who I am first. Hey, Daphnee, great to meet. Thank you for accepting my connection. I know you're the head of finance, but here is what I'm trying to do. And I'm wondering if there's a way you can help me with that.
Yeah.
And then explain, I've tried X, Y, Z. I haven't been successful. From your vantage point, what do you think? Is there any advice you can lend to me to help me?
Yeah.
The answer might be no, but I'm going to respect you. Or at least I'm going to take the time to say, you know what? I don't know, but let me go find out.
There we go.
For you. But to just automatically drop something on my lap and accept, I don't know you. When I use my credits, the connections I know for you, because your song is hot to who?
Exactly. Oh man, what a word that is.
So that's my pearl of wisdom on that is don't waste anybody's time.
Yeah.
Because we don't. You know, I just gave you guys my resume for 30 seconds. Like, I got kids. I got, like I told you, I'm doing work while at a karate dojo and the soccer practice. Listen, no, cut it out. So,
amen. What would you say was your mama, I made it moment? And what made you realize that you were headed in the right direction? What do you attribute to getting to that point?
My mama, I made it moment, honestly, is coming to Mass Appeal.
Yeah.
Because I came to Mass Appeal and it's like no other job I've ever had before, in the sense of the kind of respect that I'm getting from my colleagues, from people in the industry, the exposure that I have. And when I'm pulled into certain meetings and I'm like, oh, wait, you really want my opinion? You want to hear what I got to say? Right? And it's not necessarily related to the budget or anything like that. That's where I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I'm here. It is different. Because most of the time in a lot of industries, especially within media, entertainment, music, finance and attorneys are the two people nobody want to talk to. Yeah. They don't want to talk in front of. They don't want to share stuff with because they're afraid. Because we usually come in saying, nope, you're not compliant. Right. Nope, you can't do this. Nope, 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 nope. So they don't want to. They don't want us in the room. Yeah. And so at Mass Appeal, I'm actually valued. Right? People actually come or even give me a heads up about specific, tasks and requirements. They're like, no, we want you to know, like, this is what's going on. And I was like, wow, this is cool. And then I attribute that to what I did when I first started, going to each individual, not just department heads either. Because that's another thing that we tend to do in this industry is we minimize the people who are really doing the work. Right? From the intern to the assistant to the PA we don't necessarily give them value. And you know what? Without them, we wouldn't be able to do half the things we do. So I didn't just set up time with the executives. I did it with their direct reports as well. And I let them know just as much that they have access to me like anyone else does. Not to be afraid to come to me if they have a question or if they need my help with something. I'm more than happy to be back. So I let them know. And I think that that's truly important as well. Absolutely. Don't think because of your title that you are now above other people. And you know what? Because they're the ones who have their ears to the ground. Yes. They're the ones who have friends in other spaces too, or know what's hot out in these streets and can tell you, that's not really popping right now. Don't do that.
You need their insight. So treat everyone equally and with compassion. Like, yes. That's how you get things done. And also how you're able to stay focused on the things that you need to do too. Yep. They're there for a reason. Yep. But they're so funny because it's interesting that you said on the finance side or legal folks, nobody really wants to talk to you like that. Nope. So it's different because on the royalty side, they want to talk.
When it comes to royalty.
Yeah, because they want to know where their money is.
Well, yes, and that's what I'm saying. They talk to you when it comes to the money. When it incentivizes them, sure, but we don't get invited to the cool stuff. We don't get the extra tickets to anything. No one's trying to, I'm not going to the award show, or the album release party, unless there's extra tickets. And it's like, oh, yeah, sure, you can come. But no one's really, we're not that. No one wants us there.
It's sad. Like, honestly, if you've got a position that's that important, like you're literally the decision maker, shouldn't you be there? Shouldn't you be there? Like, I just feel like that's a little lopsided, right?
I say that all the time. I'm like, why am I learning about this after the fact? Like I should be involved in the meeting, and not necessarily in the beginning when things are still being ideated, but at least when we know that this was, because then I could have came in with the certain, did you think about whatever certain implications there are here financially? Because now I have to kind of re-engineer things to make it work.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Or say, sorry, this has to be on hold because technically this isn't compliant from a tax standpoint or what have you. So
yeah,
that has to be considered. And I wish, that's the one thing I truly wish in all spaces, that that wasn't the case, that we were treated more as partners than the bad guy.
Yeah.
But at Massapil, that's changed, I think, quite a bit. We don't have that issue.
Well, I just want to celebrate you because I feel like we need to give women that are on the back end their roses. You know,
thank you.
Everyone wants to be a marketing person or A&R and, schools with the artist and all that. That's fun. I mean, honestly, a lot of that to me is like babysitting in a way, which is like, I'd rather not,
Right.
They're not. It sounds fun, but I like sleep too.
I prefer that. Like, I don't want to deal with
just getting to know each other. If there was one thing that you could have done differently in regards to pursuing your career, what would have it been?
Ooh, a lot, actually, a lot. So I feel like I spent my earlier days in my career trying to put myself on a fast track of just getting promoted and just moving up the ladder and just being I always wanted to just be in the room, but I never understood why I wanted to be in the room. One would equate it to clout chasing. Isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it was more about, well, why? What are you bringing to the table exactly? If you want to be in most spaces, why? So going back to what I was saying about the artists and wanting to be in the music industry, but reaching out to the head of finance for that, like, why? And I would have spent more time, not that I didn't do it, but even more time studying my craft, really becoming an expert in my field earlier on than late, and aligning myself with better people. Like, one of the reasons why I didn't have a mentor is because I didn't really look for one. I didn't really know how to look for one. Unfortunately, in these industries that I've been in, if you were not a white woman, you were just discarded. If you were somebody took interest in, you had to play the game. There's a specific unspoken rule, a game that is played that I just don't play. I don't kiss ass. I'm not going to round nose for the sake of. That's just not how I operated. Right. And I don't step on toes. I don't throw people under the bus. I'm just supportive, and I don't gossip. I don't do those things. That's just not how I'm wired. And so I didn't necessarily align myself with whom I should, because I just didn't like who they were. I didn't want to be associated with them. And also, I spoke my mind too damn much. The wrong way. I did. I got very emotional a lot of times. And I also let people know about my personal life too much. So they use it against me, right?
That openness. That's something I struggle with, honestly. I talk to my parents who are more like, they're probably the most supportive people you'll ever meet in your life. They give me what I need to hear, but they also know me. I'm the type that has to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
But they're like, everybody don't need to know your business.
Yes.
Everybody shouldn't know your business.
No.
But I'm like such a friendly and open person. I feel like the more that I share, the more people will relate to me and bring the walls down. Yeah. Yes. Like, everybody's got flaws. Everyone's imperfect. So let's just, not take ourselves so seriously. But there's a time and a place for that. There's a time and a place. And that's what I've had to learn.
Same. And I didn't also know how to always separate my personal from my professional, as far as like, if I was I would be dealing with whatever I'm dealing with at home. Meaning, like, I lived with my parents, so there were things would be happening at the time, or I was in a relationship and, or a situationship, really, I should say. And, whatever happened between that, I wear my heart on my sleeve. Like, if I'm pissed, everybody knows it. Like, there's no hiding. I don't have a poker face. And sometimes I don't know how to just compartmentalize. And it would affect my work. And so back to the question, if I were to go back, I would totally have, knowing what I know now anyway, have done things a lot differently.
Yeah.
and not allow certain people to really affect. Like I had toxic bosses, and rather than just maybe learning how to adapt to it and just, I would break down. I went to the hospital once because of a toxic boss. She made
Oh
me
no.
so anxious. I literally had
Mm.
this panic attack that was so bad on the floor of Viacom that I had to go to the hospital.
Wow.
I
Wow.
allowed people to see my weakness,
Mm.
right? And I felt that that was used against me. And so
Mm.
I don't. And so what I do now, I typically I've had 3 assistants in the past. Not to say that I was a bad boss, just the
Mm.
2 didn't work out. But why they didn't work out? Like one specific, I should have never hired, but I hired her because I saw myself in her. I saw my younger self
Mm.
in her, and what I did was I thought my husband actually pointed it out to me too, is that I was basically trying to redo my career through her, like
Oh.
preventing her from making those same mistakes
Mm-hmm.
and being a boss to her that I didn't have.
Yes.
She used it against me because I was too
Nice.
nice to her and I was too forgiving and too lax. And
Mm-hmm.
there's such thing as being too supportive because you gotta
Mm-hmm.
let people fly and. So there was a blurred line for us, and so I had to let her go. That was one of the things I saw I did was try to prevent her. I saw her going down that path,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, she ended up being psycho.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's part of it too. We talked about that a little bit of being too nice, being too nice. And you want to give people grace. And sometimes we, as women, we teeter the line between like gracefulness and doing too much, like being too accommodating.
Yes.
Yeah.
I grew up, went to Catholic school for, kindergarten and 8th grade. My mom is a sponge Catholic. And then also I told you my parents just being altruistic people. My grandmother the
Mm-hmm.
same. Like my husband actually asked me a question about what drives me to be this way. And I'm like, I don't know. It's just in me. I was told this is how I get to heaven. Like this has been in me since I was a child. Like I can't
Yes.
help it. And in talking about boundaries, certain boundaries are crossed because I want to. I'm very empathetic and I want to make sure that
Right.
the person is not suffering, that the person is successful. I live
Yes.
for that. So there
Yes.
is something that's called being too nice because people can recognize that in you.
Yes.
There's snakes out there. People
Yes.
can manipulate and take advantage. And so I've had to learn to harden up a little bit. Like one of the things
Mm-hmm.
I started exercising recently was when people would even reach out to me about things that's not taking up a lot of my time and I don't really have the space for. And I simply would say respectfully, well, thank you for trusting me with this, but I'm not the appropriate party for this. Like, I'm
Right.
not the right person to talk to about this.
Right.
And you have to like start to push back
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
being an empathetic person, I take on people's energies. So if
Yeah.
you tell me right now, oh, Daphnee, you know what? Right now I have some indigestion. I taste it. I feel it. I
Oh
know what you're
man.
feeling. And
Yeah.
I'm going to be like, oh my God, get some baking soda. Now jump in. And that's being a mom made me worse because now I'm super like, I got remedies. I got things.
Yes.
Like, what do you
Yes.
need? And that is me all the time. And it's like,
Me
not people don't always
too.
need that. They don't always need that. And it doesn't always have to be you.
Yeah.
That was
That
another thing
part.
I wanted to mention in
That
talking
part.
about what to do over again. It doesn't always have to be you. If you
Yeah.
haven't noticed throughout this entire time, I'm a talker. I can talk all day long. It doesn't mean people want to listen to me though. Or in a conference room, in a meeting, when things,
Mm-hmm.
let's say an idea is presented and they want some volunteers or thoughts, I'm always the first to raise my hand. I'm always the first to
Mm.
speak, always. Sometimes to the point
Mm.
where my husband even pointed out to me earlier on when we started dating, he was like, yo, you don't let anybody else talk. You're always the one
Oh my
talking.
gosh.
And I'm like, I used to take offense. Like, I'm like, what? Shut up. Like, just because you're an introverted person, you're not going to dim my. But then I started realizing what that was doing to me, though. Because, yes,
Mm.
I am now dimming other people's light because they're like, oh, she's going to talk anyway, so I'm not even
Mm.
going to say anything. Or
Mhm.
people are not going to volunteer. So it's going to eventually come. And I became the default person that things just got dropped on. And
oh, that is such a freaking word. I feel like we are the same person.
Yes. And I've had to pull back. Now in meetings, I will talk. I'm not going to sit here and be quiet. No. Unless I'm totally uninterested and I feel like this is a waste of time, I'm going to be like, but my face will say it. So I have to turn off my camera because I'm like, they're going to know this is stupid. So camera off, I got to wait and be done with it. But for the most part now, I sit back and I let other people talk first.
I'm not a talker like that. Actually, I'm probably less of the person that's going to speak up unless I'm literally being tapped to say an update or something like that. I will do that. But I like to I'm not a talker like that. I'm not a talker like that.
I don't know what it is about me that does that. I don't know why I do it.
I do have a savior complex. Like, I do want to save everybody. I want to give everybody everything they need, and it's like, yeah, to your point, you cripple them by always being there for them because they don't learn how to stand on their own 2 feet every time you're doing something for them, for what it's worth. That's kind of why things ended in my relationship with my ex-husband, because I'm giving so much that I'm not allowing him to step into his own and do what he has to do and all of that. So, and I find that it's similar in some of my, friendships that I've had to kind of like set boundaries with, is because I've been the one that's been the plug or the person that's all the fun. And so
I'm the Google. I'm the Google. I've always been the Google. Part of it also is because growing up in a house with 20 people all from a different country.
Yeah.
I was the one who taught my aunts and uncles and cousins English. I used to help write my aunt's papers when she was in high school and college. I was writing term papers. I'm in 7th, 8th grade, doing my own homework and then doing it. My mom, while she was in college, I helped her. We were in college at the same time. So we were both, I'd be checking her work and doing her papers for her with her while doing my own. And always correcting in English or something, or being that person to help you find the information you needed. And I just became that particular part of I became that for everybody.
Yeah.
Kid you not right now. My son's godmother calls me, and it's not to, because she wants to know how to get to somewhere. I'd be like, the time you took to call, you would have been there already with Google. My dad will pretend like, he couldn't print or whatever, he couldn't fill out a form. He'll come here with his whole laptop, as if mine isn't here, for me to read through a document for him to send to, whatever, his retirement company or whatever. I'm just like, that I've always been that. And so that particular part of me is extended now into work.
Yeah, that's such a hard thing too, because it's like, on one hand, I feel like I need to be that way so that people know that I'm tapped in. People know that I'm on my job. I know what I'm talking about, all this stuff. But then at the same time, it's like, I'm overextending myself. I shouldn't have to worry about that. I have my own things I need to worry about. Let me stick to what I need to do over here. And then I'll get to you if I have time or have the energy and capacity to deal with that.
And I think for me, it just hit me that why I am this way too. When I was a kid, and then how when you're a child, you start thinking about what it's going to be like when you're an adult. For whatever reason, my perception of like a successful woman was the go-to woman, was the movie. She was the one that people went to. Right? When you watched old school 90s movies and there was a woman who actually was an executive or something, the rare times they actually showed one, she was a bitch, but she was like beautiful, successful. She was the one who called the shots. She was and that's who I wanted to be. Right? I remember when I interned for the first time at Merrill Lynch, I was in high school. The guy that I supported, he was literally a walking Google. There was nothing that this man, you asked him that he didn't know. And I wanted to be him so bad. Like, that's who I wanted to be.
Lo and behold. You became him, girl. What you doing?
I did. I sure did. And I remember I was just like, wait, like I felt like that was what success is, you made it because things don't run without you. Right?
Yeah.
Nothing doesn't work without you. But then I started to grapple with, well, what if they do work without me? What
is that a good or a bad thing? You know?
And that's, I used to think it was bad because that means you're no longer needed. But I've had to shift to think, well, no, that just means you did your job.
Facts.
Because no one is having to rely. You've given everybody the tools they needed to be sustainable without you.
And then
but
that
not enough,
gives you
they
an
still need to be
opportunity
a
to
little
grow.
bit. Right.
Because you're now having to challenge yourself to see what other avenues can you pursue that make you more valuable. It's kind of like an exit plan if you're thinking about a career too. Why you don't stay with one place for 10 plus years now is because a lot of times you've acquired enough skill to actually grow and do something else that helps you, benefits you. And I think a lot of my generation feels like less of a loyalty to businesses because of that.
Oh, there is no loyalty. Like, that's something that I used to argue with my mother-in-law about, because in the last 10 years, like I don't think I stayed at a job longer than 2.5 years.
Wow.
Right? Not all of it due to me seeking other opportunity. Some of it was layoffs, whatever. I mean, it was during like 2008, 2009, the world was over. But also too, feeling like, well, no, if I'm not valued here, or if I feel like I've exhausted the opportunity, I can go somewhere else. But I wouldn't always go outside first. I would look within the organization or see if I can step up or whatever. And I felt like if there was no other avenues to explore, or they just didn't help me make those opportunities happen, I left.
Yeah.
I don't regret it.
It's so funny because I think about like how everything needed to align in my career the way that it did. I was with a boutique music publishing firm in New York City for 2 years. I learned everything I could about publishing because it was such a small agency, but we had we had all the standards, the evergreens. So we were making money. But I was with them for 2 years, and then to your point, the recession was going on and I was let go. And I ended up working with E1 after that, where it was even smaller of a team, but so much more of an extensive catalog, because now you're talking about a conglomerate. And just the mental health started to decline, girl. Like I went through depression. I was like, I'm underpaid, overworked. I got to do something about this. Plus, I was working in Manhattan. I was away from the city now from all my friends, and I'm like, this ain't it.
Right.
So then Cobalt picked me up, and it was a nice balance. It's a younger company. We're using better technology. I had a role that was respected, and I was in the sync division. So I was learning as this is where the money
I came
is.
across old emails with you. I was like,
oh really? This is why you don't burn bridges, people. Okay. This industry is small. But so I learned as much as I could about the sync department. I was with Cobalt for 4 years. They're my family still. I have a lot of connections there. But when it came to the point where I say, hey, I'm not growing anymore.
Right.
It's just starting to become repetitive now. Like I'm not being challenged at all. Like, is there an opportunity for me to, hire someone, or can I move into this department over here?
Right.
And I was being told, no, like that's not what we want you to do. We want you to stay in this comfortable little box. And so that's when I was like, okay, I put my resume out there, and I was starting to get feedback for CFO positions. And I was like, I'm really selling myself short here.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I resigned from Cobalt that I started to see what was available to me at the time. And I wouldn't have been able to join Empire and literally have a role created for me to work there if I hadn't taken that, what's it called? Leap of faith. Yeah, a leap of faith,
Right.
But I would say probably the longest I've been somewhere was with Cobalt for those 4 years.
Like I told myself, like, I want to find my home. That was like my next thing, because I hate interviewing. I'm good at it. I just hate it. And, for me, it's like dating. It's like, I don't want to do this.
Play the game.
I don't got time. Yeah, I can't. I don't like it. I don't like it. Good at it, sure, but So my intentions, I came in with a different mindset, and I prayed on it. Not even gonna lie, because I had another position lined up that was very parallel to Mass Appeal. It was an advertising tech company. There was really nothing that set them apart, and I was like, where do I go? And I sat with it, prayed about it, And the answer came to me. It was weird too. And I was like, wow. And you know how sometimes you make a decision and you go like, oh, what if I chose a different,
Mm-hmm.
path? That has not crossed my mind. I
Amazing.
know deep in my heart that this is where I was supposed to be. And I'm comfortable with
Blessing.
that. And, like anybody in their role, you have your days where you're just like, why the hell am I here? Like, what am I doing? Should I maybe look? And then something will happen. And I'm like, nope, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
I want to
That
see this through.
you were supposed to go through some of the challenges, but you got this. You
Well,
got
that's the
this.
thing. Challenges are uncomfortable,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The thing is with us is that and I know for me, the minute I'm uncomfortable, I want to leave.
Mm.
That's my number one. If I'm not comfort is big for me. Safety is big for me. And the minute I
Safety for
don't feel
sure.
safe or comfortable, and I say comfortable, not because they say if you're too comfortable, then it's time to go. I don't mean it in that regard. I mean it like if my spirit feels right in this moment.
Right.
If it doesn't, I need to go.
Yeah.
No, sometimes it's universe talking to you about maybe something you're not doing or shifting things for you to see certain things or push you to a certain, think about it like when you're working out, right? Let's say, for example, burpees. I hate burpees. People call them up downs, hate them. Or any type of workout, right? When you're lifting weights and you start to feel that burn, your initial instinct is to stop, right? Because you don't like that feeling. Or if you feel it winded, you want to stop to catch your breath. No, you have to push because once you push that threshold, now your body is really doing what it needs to do to get into that your fitness, level that you're trying to achieve.
Improve.
The same applies with work, right? In any space for that matter. You started and you're like, oh, this is great. You're feeling good, like a good jog, right? You're, oh, I got this. All of a sudden, oh, wait a minute. I need to slow down. No, keep going. And same with work. Like I could be having a day and I'm like, why is everything coming at me this way? Or why? Because there's a process you didn't, do or instill, or maybe there's a certain person that you need to actually have that conversation with to push you past, a specific thing. Like you have to always discern, like, what is this? Are we feeling at this moment? Is it just discomfort because you're accustomed to a certain thing? Or if this is truly something that's toxic and not for you, but rather than taking the fight or flight risk, like, you got to just really sit there and think about it. And that's what I didn't do for a long time.
Yes.
I was like, I don't like this. I'm out. Yeah.
That is a bar. Honestly, that's a gem right there. I appreciate that. I think that's something anyone could take away from women, man, push through. So we're going to wrap it up now. I'm going to ask you one last question.
Sure.
But before I do, I'm going to just tell you, like, honestly, this has been such a privilege and an honor to talk to you.
I
love your energy and I love your spirit, and I really appreciate you being able to take the time to talk to me. And I know this won't be the last time, because anytime you come out here, you gotta hit me up. And every time I come out there, I will definitely talk to you too. Hopefully we can grab a drink or something.
Sure.
But so the last question is, what can we expect from Daphnee in the future? What are you working on? What are you proud of at the moment?
What I'm working on professionally right now at Mass Appeal is just, I'm still building out our finance department. Just trying to, we're a growing company, as you've seen right now in the most recent weeks. We just signed an artist named Richie Quake. Look out for him. He's on tour right now. I'm sure Nas always has a project in the works. And then on the media side, we have a few projects coming out. We have a few other projects going on. So I'm just looking forward to just, wrapping all these up in the bow, and obviously new projects and partnerships. Personally, I am really trying to figure out what that is right now. I did say I'm on a board of a national organization called Go On Girl Book Club. As a compliance officer, I wear many hats in this organization. One being on the board as a compliance officer, but also I participate in something called Conversations with GOG, where we talk with authors about a specific book. Most recently, we spoke with a woman, Yvonne Durant, who has a book out about her life in the media industry, as well as her relationship with Miles Davis. That was last week. You can still look out for it on Facebook and YouTube. A moderator on that initiative. And so I will be speaking with some authors who we just recently got sponsored by Audible. So we're
Okay.
curating books with Audible. So you'll be looking out for books that we are on our top list as well. So those are some of the things
Nice.
I'm on there. Yeah, and Madison has this huge undertaking right now, celebrating hip hop's 50 years next year. So we have a bunch of projects in the works leading up to hip hop's 50th birthday. So I'll be a part of
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's exciting.
it is. It is.
And where can
It's a
people
great
find you if
time.
they want to connect with you?
You can find me on Instagram, Très Jolie, TRESJOLIE 20. That's my handle there. I'm on Twitter, but I'm not. Like, I don't really do the thing, so I wouldn't even. But it's the same name. LinkedIn, Daphnee Pierre. I'm not big on social media. I've actually tried to pull back a little bit. Thankfully, my role doesn't really require me to do that. So, but yeah, if you want to connect, those are ways that you can connect with me.
Amazing. Well, I appreciate you so much, like I said, and I look forward to connecting with you. And thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Janisha. This is a pleasure.
Likewise.
Remember, stay positive, inspired, and true to yourself. Go out there and kill it. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time on Pub Royalty Queen Podcast.